significantly fewer people. There are plenty of theories why. Women don't score as much. They don't run as fast. They don't dunk. Women's sports, in general, are not worth watching.
The police often question him just because they find him interesting. His beard alone has experienced more than a lesser man's entire body. His blood smells like cologne. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer those.
Ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages, you are welcome to another Wednesday and another episode of everyone's favorite Talking Heads program on the internet. It's the Mattriarchy. And today, it's just me. Guys, we had a sad thing happen. A sad thing happen here at the Mattriarchy. Not really that sad, but some of our members, our typicals, our usuals, could not make it today. And so, rather than not have a show or not talk about Scott Pilgrim, which was our plan, I don't want anyone to miss out on Volume 4's conversation. So, we're rescheduling. If you guys came just to watch the fourth installment of The Pilgrimage, I'm sorry. You'll have to come back next week. Instead, you're just going to hang out with me while I do some live review of some comics that I've read recently. Of course, as always, if there are questions in the chat, feel free to chime in, and I will ask those about virtually anything. Virtually anything. I am right now. I was running late, getting everything set up here. I'm still running late, but I wanted to get set up a second camera so that we can go ahead and look at the comics as we're doing. And work ran along today. It's kind of a long story, but it is what it is. That's where we're at, and that's the story. So the comics we are going to be talking about today are... Let me fish those out so we can go ahead and see them here. I picked up at the library the Oracle Code, youth graphic novel. I got the trade version of Far Sector, all 12 issues. I read that one. Don't worry, guys. Don't freak out. We're not going to read the whole thing. I picked up this really fun back issue, quarter bin issue of All New Invaders. That fun story, part 2 of a 5-part story, I think. We'll talk about that a little bit. And I got this. It's called Eben. I got it because it's got this crow or raven on the cover with a gun. An old Western story. And I love Western comics. I wanted to see what this was all about. So in a little while, we'll go ahead and hit that up. So there was another comic that I read. Oh, I talked about this a little briefly last week. I read, it's called The Red Pawn, and it is based on a screenplay written by Ayn Rand. That was really, I was going to talk about that. I was going to do a video on that one. I didn't. You know what else I could talk about? I've been meaning to record an in-depth review of Kyrie. I haven't had the time. I'm not sure I'm ready for that one today. So maybe we'll not do that today. So let me see here. I've got to get my secondary camera. I'm still working on getting that all set up here. Here, I want to put some music on while we're waiting. A little chill on something here. Oh, I don't see it. Okay. Feeding the ducks. I think that's the one I kind of did. Anyway. How's that? I don't even know if anyone's watching. We're going to go on with it though. So, this morning I saw a really good video that my buddy Nick Mueller did on the Snow White controversy, which I was not aware was a controversy. That's the funny thing. Daily Wire has decided to do their version of Snow White. They've been wanting to get into movies for a long time. It's not a secret. And Nick had some interesting thoughts on it. Apparently, some people are spicy because next year supposed to have two different properties. I can't see why anyone would care. Because I'm telling you, I don't think the people that would see no one's going to make a choice between them. You know what I'm saying? People are either going to watch the Daily Wire one and they have no interest in the Disney one, or they're going to watch the Disney one and have no interest in the Daily Wire one, or want to watch them both to kind of compare and contrast. So, can't see anybody being really mad about that. Anyway, I got myself sidetracked entirely. But yeah, it's the Ravens Loft. I think his YouTube channel. It is a super great video. So good on him. Good commentary. Let's see here. Oh man. Jeepers. Okay, hang on a second. I thought I had it all figured out. Sent myself a link and I can't open it up on my phone. So I gotta fix that. So last weekend I had really hoped to be getting a bunch of more 4 pages formatted for the Forces Zing 2 or Forces manga size. And that just didn't happen. Just didn't happen. I got busy with stuff. Didn't help that I started the weekend sick as a dog. That's for sure. Okay, guys, I didn't mean to leave quiet for so long. I'm just, like I said, I'm fighting with technology here, so my apologies. I should have had all this figured out ahead of time. I thought, how tough could this possibly be? I'll just go ahead and get this set up while I'm doing intros. How tough could it possibly be? There you have it. So I guess while we're waiting, I don't have that. I keep forgetting to message you. I was going to say while we're waiting, talk about some of the future plans for the show. Hopefully next week, 4, 5, and 6, which brings us into November. And then I think we are looking at. Hey, Cartoonicus has joined. Hey, how's it going, man? You've saved me from the irritatingness of my own brilliant ideas.
Well, I mean, what can I say? I was sitting here working on comics, and it was just so riveting watching you set up electronic equipment. I had to join in.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So I am just about, I think, ready to get my second camera going. Let's see if it works. So you're working on a
Super Scold.
super school?
Yep.
You know, Cartoonicus, I have a question that you don't have to answer if you don't feel like it, but what do you do in the real world?
There's a real world?
Yeah, day job kind of stuff.
I mean, I thought it was clear my existence is as an anthropomorphic cartoon cat.
Oh, I think it would be. That sounds impressive.
No, as far as a day job, I am a manager at a storage facility, and then have about no less than 18,000 side projects going on at all times.
Wow.
I am currently working on my game, always juggling about 2 or 3 other indie game projects with other people. Working on Super Schooled, doing various freelance jobs for clients, and of course, constantly spending about 80% of my time on social media trying to promote stuff.
Yeah, that promotion game, man, that's tough.
Oh,
I wouldn't wish that on a one-legged cat on a rock.
I have never heard that phrase before.
I don't really know what that means. I just sort of rolled with it and saw where it went.
You watch, that's going to become the most famous line on your entire channel now.
That'd be impressive. So part of my plan for tonight is I want to do these live reviews and then try. I've been wanting to try this for a while. I want to take stuff from the live show and cut them up into little mini shows and go ahead and dump that out onto the internet as whatever, right? So
what you thinking, like shorts or 10-minute episodes?
Yeah, something like that. Oh crud!
That is it.
Okay, I turned my speaker all the way down. It didn't do though. Here, can I? Man. No volume. No ringer. Oh, it's not. It won't go down. Okay. Can I turn this completely off? This might not work at all. Oh no.
This is like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Oh my gosh. This is the worst thing ever. Media volume limit. Okay. Off. I gotta see if I can't mute myself. I don't think I can.
This is what happens when the metal isn't here.
Well, it wouldn't help anyway because what I'm trying to do is so outside of the box that it's, yeah. Sound mode, mute. Okay, see if that makes any sort of difference. Wait a second. I'm looking at the wrong settings, I think. I think I need to go back to, let's see. So your microphone's right in front of your mouth again.
Oh, that's right.
It's the best. This is the best entertainment on the internet, guys. You're watching a middle-aged man fumble with an ancient broken phone. This is, you can't get that. You can't just get. That's not something you can just get. It's a very special kind of thing. Okay.
You don't work hard to think this stuff up.
It's insane. It's crazy. It's wild. It's the heart of wildness.
He is the most interesting rabbit in the world.
Audio. Okay, it's not just, it's the other one too. Wait, you know what I can do though? I just thought about this. I think I could turn my headset on, and so it'll still talk, but it'll talk through. I can mute this. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay. Nope. Well, let's see here. So this whole segment, we're just going to cut out somehow.
I think this is the best part.
In ways that I can't figure out yet. Somehow it's going to happen. Or we're just going to cut this out entirely. Okay. Now let's see if this is going to do anything at all. Well, and it says that it's muted entirely, but it's still not doing the thing. Because the app has control. I don't think there's any way of figuring this out. Yep, I think I'm going to kill it. Yep. Listen here, phone. Just to get out of here. Ban from, kick from studio. Yep. I'm going to have to do all kinds of things after the show to make sure my phone is working again. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So, well, I don't know that anybody at all has tuned in to watch this fumbling. So, are there any, Taylor, any news of the day? Any interesting tidbits that you want to share?
Oh, let's see. New things happening. Not that won't bring spoilers, I don't think. You are making me wait another week to have to say the things I am not thinking about Scott Pilgrim Chapter 4.
That's true. I am making everybody wait.
I'm going to explode.
Are you?
Yes.
What's going on here? Oh, I know what's happening. I know what's going on now. Hey, Metal. Yeah, I know. I thought I had this great idea. I thought a second microphone, a second camera, do live reviews. Thought this book here. This is one of those. This is one I was really interested in. I don't know. I want to bother doing a full write up on it because the story is kind of boring. It's boring isn't the right word. It's not the best story. It's kind of boilerplate. But let me show you this thing. Actually, Cartoonicus, you'll get a kick out of this one here. I picked this up out of a quarter bin at my local comic shop.
Oh,
The things are actually $1.
we're not saying it.
I know, no. That's why I'm bringing it around here. Right?
EBNN.
Yeah. Eben with an apostrophe in there. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a take on him being a black crow or what the story is. But it's a pretty standard Western with all anthro animals.
Is this character by any chance an assassin or something like it?
No, he's a what do you call it?
Because
Bounty hunter.
I asked
Yeah.
because the joke about crows and murder.
Murder of crows. Now he's a bounty hunter. He's got kind of man with no name vibes, right? But they're hunting down this cat character called.
Hey,
Well, I'm not sure if he's a cat or if he's a wolf. He kind of looks. Here's him in page 1. This guy here. No, right here. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Right? They call him
came in.
Dastardly. Oh, where am I finding his name? Oh, Dirty Dingo Dog, outlaw gunfighter and killer. The most feared animal in the wastelands.
Well, I'm guessing that's going to be a dog.
I would think so, but he looks very cat-like in a lot of the drawings. So, but yeah, in any case, here's one of him looking a little more dog-like. Right. But then you see, I can't find one where he looks particularly cat-like in it, just for kicks. Anyway, it doesn't really matter particularly for the whole deal. But he's basically the world in this comic is that there's a sort of animals only Old West called the Wasteland, and all the animals talk except the insects don't. So they ride around on these giant cockroach steeds.
It's always the problem with all animal universes is that at some point you have to figure out who's going to plow the fields.
Right, exactly.
What are you going to ride on?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I gotta respect, like in Disney World, they seem to have some talking animals and some non-talking animals, and I think that makes pretty good sense.
Well, that is if you're talking about like the Mickey Mouse universe, that is one specifically that has not only, anthros as I call them and non-anthros, but also has humans.
That's true.
For me, that's the perfect way to do it because what it does is, by comparing them to the humans, it says there are animals just like normal and there are humans just like normal. For some reason in this universe, there's this third category of alien type creature. It's when you're doing all animal universes where the animals are essentially the humans of that world. That's where it can easily get messy if you're not very clever about what you do. You'll notice in Zootopia.
I never saw Zootopia.
Oh, no.
No.
You should actually. Not only is it a very good movie, because it is also a very good example of world building. There isn't a single animal in Zootopia that isn't a land mammal. And I think you'll find they did that for a lot of very specific reasons that has you preventing you from asking a lot of those questions, like what happens if half the citizens in this universe can fly?
Right. Plus, it also eliminates some of the I forgot what I was going to say. So never mind. But anyway.
It did not fully protect them, though, because one person did notice on the internet that there's an ice cream machine, and they said, who's getting milked?
Well, it could be, what do you call it?
Soy ass.
Soy. Or whale milk. They're mammals, so technically they have milk. So anyway, the story in this comic is that Eben the Crow is sent to hunt down this dirty dingo dog, and to take him to trial in the town where he's from, and hauling him across the wasteland. The Triple D's gang shows up and everything. And then there's a shootout at the end of the story, and it's a pretty stock a Western plot. I thought it was executed just fine. But the reason it specifically caught my eye, because the anthro thing is not necessarily my thing as a general rule. But what specifically caught my eye was right here, was the Now logo. Now Comics was the publishing house that did have the Terminator contract. They did Ralph Snart, but for my interest in it, they did the Green Hornet. And I'm a huge Green Hornet fan. And when they had the contract for Green Hornet back in the early to mid 90s, did some great. This is Stephen King's Gunslinger with animals. I haven't read the Gunslinger, so I can't comment. I think it's more like the Fistful of Dollars with animals. I really get more of the spaghetti western kind of vibes from it. As far as schools of westerns, there's a little bit of Shane in there, just in the way that there's a young cub character who has attached himself to Eben the Crow, and so you've got a little bit of that in there. I didn't do any reading into this whole thing. I just, like I said, I picked up the thing and then I read the comic. The second half of the book, it's got a one-page short after the Western story, featuring. Let me find it here. Right after the Western story, but it must be after that. But the Dick Duck the Duck Dick. It's a little pastiche of hard-boiled, no pun intended, detective stories with a comedic duck as the lead. And it also had a World War II era anthro story called or it's a feature, the backup feature in this, called Combat Wombat and the Howlin' Critters. But rather than feeling like a fuzzy animal, a funny animal take on Sergeant Rock or Nick Fury, it feels more like Mr. Magoo or like something off of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. That's okay. Metal says the Gunslinger is basically a fistful of dollars, but with the multiverse. Okay, I want to take a second.
I'm curious, how exactly do you mean the Rocky and Bullwinkle show in terms of art style or writing?
It's a little bit art style, but I mean more like Rocky and Bullwinkle is the wrong pickup. I really am talking about the underdogs, the backup features, like I said the wrong thing, but it's really like the I'm gonna forget the names of them. There's Tennessee Tuxedo, and there's the one with the like the Indians and the cavalry. I always get those two words confused. Cavalry and cavalry. I don't know why. Cavalry with the horses, the chevaliers. The cavalry. Anyway, and I can't remember what the name of that short series is, but it's more of that kind of humor where you've got somebody who thinks they really know what's going on, but they're pretty inept, and the side character kind of saves the day, or side characters.
I know exactly what to call it. Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget's kind of like that too, but because it but it definitely feels a little more like especially because the art style hits very close to that underdog style. I can't remember the name of the guy who put that all together. Go Gophers, that's the one. Klondike Cat was in the same setup. Yeah, Go Gophers and Klondike Cat. Go Gophers was what I was trying to think of though.
This person does all animal stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, the combat wombat, Commander McBragg. Yeah, you're bringing it all back, Jim. But the combat wombat definitely has that kind of a feel to it. But the war action in it, despite it being a really silly setup and all the characters are very over the top, when they actually start shooting people, it gets pretty violent. So, but yeah, this was a fun little surprise. I will say that much. I really did enjoy the thing. I don't know that I'm going to bother trying to go through the bins to try to find any of the other issues, but it definitely was worth $1 that I put into it. So there you go. Off the cuff review. That would be really rough to try to edit. I don't know that I'm going to bother with that. So,
Speaking of animals, actually, I did order Cat on the Run.
oh, what did I think of Cat on the Run?
No, I ordered it.
Oh, you ordered it? Okay, this is going to sound like I'm really nitpicking there, Cartoonicus. But before there was too much Mike, and now there's not quite enough.
That's funny. I thought when we tested it the other week, it was just fine when I put it up there. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, that's better. I think that's better. I'm gonna turn my volume up a little bit. Maybe part of that's me.
Well, might as well ask the chat.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Or has Reese been speaking to no one this entire time to you?
Well, no, there's been some of it at least. Anyway, the next book I wanted to go ahead and dig into to talk to somebody about is the Oracle Code. Right? It is a youth graphic novel written by, I gotta look at the name, Marieke Nijkamp, and there's a whole art crew on it. Here, I'll just put that on the screen. You can check it out there. No, that's not the right page. Super Together. There we are. You can look it up at your own risk. This book, for as large as it is, it's so conflicting. Okay, first of all, it's an alternate universe. It's not part of the main DC canon, right? The reason I picked it up is I have always thought that Oracle was a far more interesting character than Batgirl.
Oh, my, there's a controversial statement.
Yeah. I wrote a whole blog about it over on idealcomics.net. I believe it's still up right now. I think Batgirl, I really liked Batgirl, but I think Oracle is a way better character. And I know a lot of people are really upset because of the way in which Barbara Gordon had her back broken, had her spine broken, and the whole story. But the fact of the matter is I think that it really is a stronger character to see her having overcome and be at peace with this part of her life. And the fact that, there's already all Batgirl can be is a girl Batman. But Oracle gets to play a whole different role in the universe, and like what they did with it in Birds of Prey and being able to have agents and friends and the whole business. I just thought it was great stuff. I think one of the greatest mistakes that Gail Simone ever did was buckling to pressure and taking the paycheck for something she swore would be bad for the character and then was. Before the New 52, she had repeatedly stated that it was bad for Batgirl to be, it would be bad for Barbara Gordon to go back to being Batgirl because of all the character development and all the growth and all the strength of her inner spirit. And while, yes, in a world full of Supermen, it kind of didn't make sense. At the same time, it was a strength of the character to have Barbara Gordon be disabled. And then she went back for money, which, don't turn away money. I get it. but she went back just for money and did the Batgirl series, and it was sad and derivative and infantilizing and everything.
So what we've got going on here is the exact same case as One More Day.
Exactly.
A big controversy between who everybody thinks Barbara Gordon is supposed to be. Should she be an adult or should she be a teenager?
This is true.
Everybody's going to land on a different side.
Right. And this story tries to cut the baby, right? So in this version of the universe, Barbara Gordon is never Batgirl. In fact, there might not be a Batman, right? Like, superheroes exist as fictional characters at the very least. Different people have dolls and comics and posters of heroes, but it's never explicitly stated in the book that they are real. One of Barbara's friends has a little stuffed Robin toy that she keeps in her room from that she had when she was a little girl. She was little, and and Barbara is probably 14, 16 years old in this, and she's a hacker, right? She's a recreational hacker, and she and a buddy of hers, Benjamin, oh man, Jim Tuner's got the hot takes. That's spicy. That's spicy right there.
Kane is a character that even Gail Simone did not bother touching.
Betty Kane could have been a really cool character. I actually had a really fun pitch for a Betty Kane miniseries that never got handled because of various reasons. But it was an idea. It never got fully developed into a pitch because DC changed their submission guidelines. Anyway, back to my story. So in this is a world where so Barbara Gordon and her buddy Ben are sitting on a rooftop hacking into some sort of something or other. They're doing some white hat hacking kind of thing, and they hear that there is some sort of break-in burglary happening a few blocks down from them. So they're jumping rooftop to rooftop, and Barbara Gordon gets caught in the crossfire between the cops and the crooks and ends up catching a piece of shrapnel in her back and being confined to a wheelchair as a high schooler. So she is sent away. And actually, let me show you this. This is like on page 6 that this all happens in. There is a really interesting art on this one full page spread. So first of all, you've got Barbara and they're running and jumping. And then here is the page where they kind of get into all that stuff, right? So she gets a wheelchair and her dad's a single dad and they don't know what else to do. So they send her to a rehab hospital, right? And in this rehab hospital, it's the Arkham Center for Independence. And they never mentioned Arkham Asylum or anything. So, once again, this might be so alternate universe that like a lot of your core Batman stuff doesn't even really happen in it. So she's gone to this rehab hospital and you meet all these other quirky kids who are at this rehab hospital who are learning all this kind of stuff. And they're all weird and multi-ethnic and quirky, and Barbara's got rage problems because she's not used to being confined. This comic does a pretty good job of dealing with Barbara coming to grips with her disability, written for 12-year-olds, right? And that's one of the things that I thought was really interesting, is that they kind of took that tag with it, where Barbara's dealing with trauma from the accident, where she's dealing with nightmares, where she's dealing with her own limitations. I thought that was pretty interesting, but it's all very much in that tween register, which I thought was fun. But one of the kids in school she was a survivor in a fire. It's this little blonde girl, and she's weird. She's weirder than the other kids. The other kids just want to kind of do fun things and learn how to play games, and they're very much into wheelchair basketball and swimming. They swim recreationally when they're not doing therapy, and they've all got very positive attitudes, all her other little friends. But the burn girl tells stories to cope with stuff. That's her whole thing. And so she tells these weird, creepy ghost stories. I want to bring in the art to this here. This is the best and worst part of this comic, right? Is these stories that go in here. There are genuinely creepy ghost story material. There are, I think, 3 of them in the book. The reason they are the best is because those little stories are actually more engaging and intriguing than the rest of the book. The art is quirky and fun and creepy. And each of the stories' art style is a little bit different effects on it. But they are really jarring away from the core parts of the story. It's a big departure. And it doesn't seem, and so it doesn't seem to make sense. It like drastically pushes you away from what's going on. You've got these scenes of Babs doing rehab training and having contentious relationships with the doctors there and all this kind of stuff. And then you have this story that'll just pop up out of nowhere. And it's just like, well, whoa, what does that got to do with anything?
Have any metaphorical meaning to it?
Yes, it does. Because one of the things that when she's not grousing about her lot in life, Barbara loves solving puzzles. And that's one thing, is like this whole thing has got, like, I'll show you on the front piece. It's got this puzzle pieces. That's a theme that shows up throughout the story, is how much Barbara loves puzzles. And she's got a puzzle box in her room and all that kind of stuff. And you start to see that these ghost stories are puzzles that the burned girl is leaving for Barbara behind. But none of her other friends interact with the burned girl. The staff at the hospital seem to, like, not really talk about her, or kind of talk like, she should be avoided, the whole business. And here's another one of the ghost stories that pops in here out of nowhere. See, different art style, different elements. Seems like it doesn't really match up, but it works into the overall thing.
Do we have multiple artists for this book?
Well, they have one penciler. One person's credited as the penciler, and I just showed on the screen earlier. I'll just go ahead and look it up again. Illustrator is Manuel Cretano. So Jordi Belair does most of the colors. It says with Manuel Cretano. So I don't know who this Manuel Cretano guy is. I did no research on it. I'm just talking about that. But even the use of hatching and the use of other stuff is varied between the stories, between the little ghost stories, which I thought was really fun. Here's another thing of the puzzles. They're the pieces of Barbara's life that aren't connecting anymore. And her dad's shield and the computers, and there's Ben who doesn't return phone calls and all this kind of stuff. Well, as the story moves along, and after the 3 little ghost stories, the weird burned girl, she disappears. She goes missing at the same time as Barbara is starting to really accept friendship from the other kids. Then her other gal friend, who doesn't have anything in common with the rest of the kids, she's just gone missing. And what do you call it? The staff talks about how, the money ran out for her because she had a patron, and the patron's not paying anymore. And so that's just what happened. She went back home with her family. And Babs, of course, does not believe that. So she goes to investigate the gal's room and finds the 3rd story. That's what it was. She didn't get told the 3rd story. She finds it drawn out on construction paper. And here's that 3rd art style. It's made to look like colored pencils. And maybe it is. Maybe that's Maybe that's the part that Praetano did all on his own. If he actually drew it on lined paper, I don't know. That would be kind of fun. I mean, here's supposed to be that picture of the Arkham place. Well, and that just steals Barbara and her friends' determination to figure out what goes on. So Barbara does some breaking and entering. Now, here's the cringiest part of the story: is whenever there is a challenge that Babs gets into, that involves puzzle solving or involves digital manipulation or anything like that, she calls it hacking. Old school hacking or manual hacking. So if she's picking a lock, that's the same as writing invasive code. And I'm just like,
take place in the 90s.
It might take place in the 90s. I don't get a good sensation. No, they've got smartphones, so it couldn't be the 90s.
Yeah.
But it does have that same some of that same hackers vibe to stuff. And that's one of the frustrating elements. But come to find out that the people running the hotel, the hospital, the old man who's like the head operator of the hospital, he founded the hospital because his daughter had an inoperable condition, and so they're doing scientific experiments on some of the kids that they've taken to a subterranean lab, and they're doing scientific experiments to try to come up with a cure for his daughter, Victor Freeze style, right? But the plan is to create a cure and then market it and get it out to lots of people. But of course, these three disabled little like tween girls are able to defeat the bad guy at the end of it through good luck and a few good shin punches, and so that's that story. But I think it did a fun job of hitting a lot of the elements. It's definitely something that it's got a limit. You know how like really good children's literature is like super enjoyable even when you're grown up?
Mm-hmm.
This is not that.
Oh.
Right? It's not Alice in Wonderland. It's not Treasure Island. It's not the Narnia books. It definitely is something that
I don't know how much good things I can say about Alice in Wonderland, actually.
Oh, Alice in Wonderland's genius. We'll have to talk about that some other time. But that being said, it was still fun. It was an interesting and relatively faithful portrayal of Babs' character. If you took, Babs in the early days of Suicide Squad and then dialed those back down the years, right? Because it is definitely a teenage Barbara Gordon in a way that is still faithful to her mind, her inquisitiveness, her force of will. In the Batman Chronicles issue 4, I want to say, back from like 97, they did a story of how Vic Sage appears and teaches Barbara Gordon Filipino stick fighting, and helps her to heal her mind while her body's going through rehab. And it was a really fun story and hit a lot of the same themes in about 12 pages that this took, this long to go through. The difference is, of course, this has a mystery with it too, and the mystery I thought was fun. But the mystery is only good because the ghost stories were good. That's the other thing I want to say about it. If the ghost stories hadn't been super engaging and fun, I wouldn't have cared how they related to the mystery. Because the mystery itself was not as fun as it was looking at the ghost stories again and again. So that's one thing. I think, I don't know if the author is used to just writing ghost stories, and that's like their wheelhouse, her wheelhouse, I think it is, or what the story is. But yeah, that was that. I did enjoy it. I would recommend it to some people, but it's definitely not a universal favorite. I have a feeling that it feels a little YA and a little. It's definitely YA, but it feels a little overbearing to the point where I think Twitless would really hate it, especially because it's very plotting, right? It's because it's not an action story at all. It's a slow-moving mystery that is also a personal drama. So there you go. So there we have it. That those are two of the 4 books I wanted to talk about today. Is anybody out there enjoying themselves? I have no idea. Chat is moving slow. So I have no idea. I will say, right here, this is this whiskey I am drinking today. It is Evan Williams, which is, for my money, probably the best bottom shelf whiskey that exists. Probably deserves to be on the second shelf, let's be honest. But this particular stuff here is their Bottled in Bond, which is not a variety I've had before, but it is quite nice. I don't know if you're a whiskey drinker, Cartoonicus.
Oh, I don't drink.
Don't drink at all.
No.
Well, then you certainly would not appreciate whiskey.
I can appreciate its reference in a Tintin book.
In what book?
Tintin book.
Tintin? Okay.
Paddock.
Is that the one where the one you're talking about the captain who overindulges on the regular? Yeah.
He was always a good character.
There's yeah, that's true. So that's reminds me of one of my favorite songs that I'm not going to sing right now. It's called "Whiskey You're the Devil." Anyway, so that last one was a plotting mystery, and apparently that was the theme of this trip to the library, because I also picked up Far Sector, which is itself a plotting mystery. That man, I feel so mixed about this book. The art is phenomenal. The setting is really fun. The world building is mostly interesting and solid. Jim Tuner says Tintin in the Congo. I've not read that either. I hear that's the one that's hard to get, though.
That and the Soviets. I would really like to be able to read both of them, just because I want to know what it is, what happened.
Yep. But like I said, the in Far Sector, the world building is interesting. The setting is pretty good. The mystery itself is fairly engaging. The characters aren't terribly done, but man, was this a swing and a miss as a whole. So, I don't know if you've ever, Cartoonicus, I don't know if you've ever heard me complain about Avengers Endgame or not.
I have.
But my
Well, I'm sorry to take that back. I have heard you complain about it prior to its release.
Okay. So, my nutshell complaint about Avengers Endgame was that it was less than the sum of its parts. Right? It's the same for the Justice League movie too, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Although I haven't seen the Zack Snyder cut, and everybody tells me, "Oh, it's so much better," and whatever.
I cannot stand Zack Snyder.
I don't know him personally, but he can stop taking any of my money. I'll tell him that. Say that much for free.
I wouldn't touch that. I mean, I haven't even watched the original Justice League.
Yeah,
would touch either of them with the 10-foot pole at this point.
Yeah, so anyway, point being, that it's a problem some things have where they are less than the sum of their parts, and Mocking Justice League longer didn't help the movie, or making Justice League longer didn't help the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, well, and that was part of my complaint with that, Jim. And I'll leave Justice League off here in a second and get back to talking about Far Sector. Because I know everybody wants to hear what I thought of Far Sector. That's what people are tuning in for. But the problem with Justice League was that it profoundly misunderstood the primary ethos of almost everything in it.
You're talking about actual Justice League?
Oh,
right,
sorry. I mean, of each of the characters.
I'm getting this confused with Avengers. Sorry.
No, yeah. With Justice League, it missed the heart of each of the characters that were involved, and so putting them all together only made it awkward for everyone. And so that's I think a big problem with that movie is it doesn't really hit on what makes any of those characters tick. And it doesn't. I mean, and of course, it didn't help that I found the guy they had to play Barry Allen, to be absolutely insufferable in that role. I think this is Metal talk about Justice League and Zack Snyder cut. Both movies were bad, and in different ways, both versions were worse than the other. Oh yeah, you got to say things that make me really want to watch the Snyder version now. I'm madly curious about what the hell you mean there. Oh, dang it, Metal. You know, Walmart's got it for $5 now. I could
just remember, no matter what, it's got to be worse than Endgame. So I don't know if you want to put yourself.
I don't think that's possible. Endgame was a movie that was so bad it made me dislike movies that came before it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't care.
I am so upset.
Just felt like it wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
I was so upset. I was so upset with Endgame. I have only watched one Marvel movie since then, and that was I went back and watched Civil War again for a school assignment. And I own them all. I have negative interest in watching any of those.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was.
So you're gonna have to explain that probably then before we move on.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think? Because I'm curious. What did you think of Infinity War?
It was okay. It would have been okay if it had ended everything there. If that snap actually just erased the Marvel universe. That was the last movie. I wouldn't mind it ending on a tragedy. What I didn't like is how they used the tragedy as a prop to try to make you care about stuff that you shouldn't care about in a movie. So they really try to harp on the tragedy in Endgame of Infinity War so that they could sell you the time travel story. And it's like, dude, And the thing that made me angry, one of the things that made me angry at Endgame is they actually specifically in the movie make fun of Back to the Future, in the script, and then they proceed to tell Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
So this is a lot of a world building.
Oh yeah, I mean it intentionally disregarded every major plot point of the entire MCU at that point. Everybody's character development was ignored. Everybody's story was ignored, and it was everybody's history. Everything. It was horrendous. Nobody acted in ways that were appropriate to how they should act. Yeah, with the exception, I take that back. I did take that back with one exception, which was Hawkeye would have snapped the way Hawkeye snapped. But yeah, that's the only character interaction in the entire Endgame that made any sense.
Okay, so with all that,
but Far Sector has a lot of really good stuff going for it. But it ends up doing in such a way that doesn't make any sort of sense. Now, first of all, before I get into talking about this much, how much do you, Cartoonicus, know about the Green Lantern Corps?
how do I say this? I know a whole lot from afar.
Okay.
I know enough to recognize that somewhere between where I was watching Justice League as a kid and where I went to my first Comic-Con, things went absolutely berserk.
Okay, so the Green Lantern Corps, they're space cops, right? And they have the galaxy divided into 3,600 sectors, over which each galaxy has at least, or each sector has at least one Green Lantern, right? That patrols it. And that Green Lantern is a local, so that he has the goods on all of the customs and cultures and languages of the Corps. Each of the Green Lanterns have a ring that turns willpower and imagination and light into physical things, and these are all connected through this network of not magic, because that's a very specific point of it. It's not magic, right? But these rings keep them alive. So if a lantern passes out while they're flying, it'll stop them from falling. These rings turn the air breathable for them. It has a universal translator. That's part of it. Right, and it has a lot of this kind of stuff automatically, and it has geographic data and star log data built into it, so the lanterns theoretically can't get lost, right? And each ring has a very basic AI to it, one that you can ask the ring questions, and it can answer those questions, like, is this safe to eat? And stuff like that.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. And for a lot of lanterns, they don't even have to worry about that stuff. You just see them acting on the knowledge from it. Because not everybody has a verbal relationship with their ring, but it's supposed to have this intuitive connection with them, right? And not all of the alien lanterns use human language even. Some of them are psychic, some of them use smells to communicate, whatever. It's supposed to be this huge thing. So, Earth has more than the normal allotment of Green Lanterns. And there are lots of reasons for that. But Earth has Hal Jordan, who should be dead, Kyle Rayner, who's sort of a lantern and sort of not, Guy Gardner, who is everybody's favorite Republican to hate. He has John Stewart, who is the man.
I thought he was invented purely for the cartoon.
No. John Stewart was actually created back when Denny O'Neil was writing Green Lantern and Green Arrow in the 70s.
Okay.
Now, his story was changed for the cartoon to make him a veteran. He was a conscientious objector. He was a kid who burned his draft card or whatever back in the 70s. And he was reinvented for the cartoon to have been a Marine before becoming a Green Lantern. So, and the medal says it's lower M magic, capital M magic has eventually been defined as a very specific substance or force in DC. Yes, and part of the Golden Age Green Lantern is actually made out of capital M magic. So that's actually a plot point for the greater Green Lantern mythos. It's made of the Starheart, which is concentrated capital M magic. Anyway, moving on. So there are lots of these things about the Green Lantern Corps to begin with. And so the setup is that in Far Sector, which is the farthest sector away from Oa, which is the center of the universe, the capital, the planet Oa, where all the Owens, the guys who invented the Green Lantern Corps, that's where they live. And Far Sector is supposed to be the farthest sector away, so far that let me just read you the first page of this thing. Actually, no, I'm going to read you the second page. The first page is a quote. Actually, I got to read the first page to make sense of the second page. A man who makes trouble for others is also making trouble for himself. Chinua Achebe from Things Fall Apart. Two little problems with that quote applied to this situation. First, in this case, the trouble isn't just mano a mano. A whole city's going to feel this. Second, I'm the one causing the trouble just by existing, but what else is new?
Sounds like a what's his name? Booster Gold comic.
Right? But it's not. Space sector, some number nobody ever bothered to tell me. Far, the farthest of the Guardians, 3,600 sectors. Maybe farther. Maybe it doesn't even have a number. Platform ever forward. Yes, that's a name. So immediately in the second page, first page, it's all pretentious, self-important, whatever. In the second page, it's infinitely demonstrating that the author, N.K. Jemisin, who won a Hugo Award, doesn't know anything about the lore of the Green Lantern Corps, right? Nobody bothered to tell her that the ring itself knows where it is. Nobody bothered to explain this. You find out that this planet this is the cool world building. So there were 2 planets in this universe, or in this star system, and one planet was made up of these plant people that are carnivorous plant people. And let me show you a picture of their design, because it's actually really fun. See if I can't in the back of the book. Here. See if I can't. Gotta stop moving so much. Where'd it go? There. See? There we are.
Okay.
Plant people, and they eat out of that big slit in their belly.
Oh,
Right? They're like they're humanoid Venus flytraps. And they're called the K Topley, right? And they're mandatory carnivores, it talks about there, right? And then there's the Na, and the Na are these fish-tailed, winged, flying water people. See if I can't get it to.
It's all white.
Yeah, I got my hand. Okay, here it goes. It needed something to show else what it is, right?
Okay.
Right. Well, back in the ancient past of these people, they're the Na, the water wing people. They living on this planet. They're developing a society. They develop an internet. On the internet, this AI race emerges, Tron style, from the internet, and they gain sentience, and they have their AI citizens, and then they go to the stars. They take off into the stars, and their neighbor planet is made up of these plant people, and these plant people. Thank you, Abigail. I love this shirt. And these plant people eat each other, and it merges their psyches, and they end up having like this spiritual awakening through and togetherness feeling from eating each other. And of course, that's like super creepy for the fish bat people, and they end up having this war between the planets because of their various ideas about resource management and what is food and everything else. And they end up strafe bombing each other's planets and destroying them, making them uninhabitable. And then they have to escape on to these starships that they each have. And they realize that they can only survive if they work together. So they start rebuilding their planet out of the scrap of their other planets. And it's this huge floating city that spins around a central core, that it's this power generation. And so each of these like boroughs of this giant city that holds like 2 billion people are these they call platforms, and they're physical structures that make up this huge matrix instead of plant, which all sounds really cool. Okay. Well, because they all felt really guilty for getting so mad that they blew up the planets, the war between the fish bat people and Venus flytrap plant monsters. Yes, they get so guilty that they wrecked their planet and nearly killed everybody that they decide to remove emotions from themselves. So they figured out the AI
Jedi all over again.
Yeah. The AI people figured out a way to genetically turn off their emotions. right? So nobody's been mad ever since then. The problem is that from the very minute they talk about that plot point in the book, everybody's showing emotions. Everybody's showing emotions. The only reason you would think they're not showing emotions is that the main character, the human, who, when after several millennia of living in relative peace, the council, the triumvirate of this they call it the city, they send out to the Guardians saying, we need a Green Lantern because I think we have war about to break out. So they send Sojourner, what's her last name? Mullen. Everybody calls her Joe, but she's Sojourner Mullen, named after Sojourner Truth, I guess. And and she's a beat down, broken New York City cop who comes up to be a space cop. And she has a whole story. I don't even want to get into it because it's so like, yeah, that didn't happen kind of a story. I'll probably get into it later. Anyway, the point is they suspect war is about to break out. And so it happens with the first murder in 500 years, which is the situation we begin with, where one of the plant people half ate one of the fish bat people. And in half eating him, it's a huge scene because that hasn't happened in forever. Now, there have been the plant people have been eating livestock. They've been voluntarily eating fish bat people who want to have the spiritual experience of merging with a plant person. So apparently that's happened from like people that are like, oh, I'd love to be part of your society. I'm really depressed anyway.
The whole war was for nothing.
Right. Or something. Right. So, but yeah, because everyone's had their emotions turned off, which doesn't make any sense because how are you having a spiritual experience if your emotions are turned off? How are you whatever? It's the whole thing is nonsense because like, and I guess it makes sense. Like I don't the one of my big problems with Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern is he introduced the other multicolored lanterns. That's not a problem because I had actually, when I was working on actively pitching stuff to DC, I was working up a pitch for something similar, but it would have to do with technology differences and cultural differences, not necessarily with like the emotional spectrum. But everything Johns hit on isn't an emotion, right? Every one of those things. Hope is not an emotion. Passion is sort of kind of an emotion. Fear is an emotion. Willpower is not an emotion, right? Avarice is kind of like an emotion, but it's also not because avarice is action. Greed is closer to an emotion. So anyway, the point being is all these things that got worked into there aren't emotions. They're just they're different things. They're immaterial goods. Because Jeff Johns is clearly not a philosopher. So anyway, there's this interesting world building that goes on in there, but the conceits of the story don't make any sense. The reason there's been this outbreak of emotion is that somebody developed a drug that would allow people to feel emotions for a time, for like a day or a half day or something. And that doesn't make sense because if you've removed emotions genetically, you can't just take a drug that rebuilds genetics because genetic modification means you're removing information from the genetic code. And so you can't just put it back in there. So there's all this there's action scenes, there's this investigation stuff that like, as somebody who likes procedural crime stuff, I enjoyed parts of it, but all of the intercharacter drama is so belabored and stupid. Well, it turns out amongst these three races, there's the AI race, and they can live in the real world through projections, but they also have their entire society living in the mainframe within the thing, like Tron. But they're like abused because now that there's no emotions, there's no market for their AI skills because nobody makes art in their universe anymore. So they import art so that they feel fancy from other places, but nobody's making art from the city. And so there's no need for the services of the AI people, so they're being starved out. And so that's a tension that you develop later in the story that you get to find out about. But that doesn't make any sense because AI people eat what? Energy. They're made of what? Energy. There's no reason for there to be a disparity of anything in the AI world, because it's all energy. And you find out that the hot new item in the city of the AIs are cat memes from Earth. But even if you want to say that cat memes are what they live on, like, copy and paste them, dude. It's like the same problem as like Elysium. Did you ever see the Matt Damon movie Elysium?
No, never heard of it.
Okay. It's horrible. Don't watch it. I will tell you one thing about it though. The entire the rich people live on a satellite in geosynchronous orbit. It's called Elysium. They have unlimited energy, unlimited food, and they have a machine that repairs your body at the genetic level. So you get into this machine, it reads your DNA and goes through your body and removes cancers and tells your body how to fix what's not working with it right. And all it takes is energy. Elysium is routinely attacked by the dirty surface people who, being poor and not being able to afford food, and they're all dying from radiation poisoning, they still manage to build rocket ships out of garbage and launch them into the atmosphere to attack Elysium on a regular basis. So they don't have any problem with getting a hold of energy, and the people in Elysium have no problem getting a hold of energy.
Well, not to mention, if you've got unlimited energy and unlimited food, you basically shouldn't have any poor people or rich people.
Right, and that's the thing is, like, so the only thing keeping the surface people from getting what they need is the rich people giving up their machine, but that doesn't cost them anything because they have unlimited resources on their little satellite. All they'd have to do is send the plans down to the stoners that build rocket ships and exoskeletons out of the scraps in their garage. So the whole universe is stupid. That's what we have with the virtual world. And the virtual world is cool looking, and the interactions are fun, and the way they play with time scale between the real world and the digital world is super cool. But like, the motivations of people don't make any sense. And of course, because the gal was a black cop who was a black soldier who watched the Twin Towers fall in their universe, and that was her motivation to get involved in public service. Everything in her perspective is about race, and so she reads that narrative into everybody's thing. And it's not that race is even an invalid topic. It's just that, like, of course, you know, everything that she sees is about disparity and about race, not about coming up with alternative solutions for digital people, right? Which seems like that would be an obvious thing. There's no problem solving. There's just and it's procedural crime drama on the level of like a CSI show. Not even that. More like Without a Trace. I don't know if you watched that one. Where it's very basic stuff. I mean, it's not unenjoyable, but there's so much garbage in this book, and so much of her personal story that was like, yeah, that didn't happen. It's the, you know, oppressed lady tropes on the level of "and everybody clapped" kind of memology, right? Where it's just like, you know, where, you know, on every page that talked about her story, I just expected somebody in the comments section to post I can't remember the meme right now. I had a picture of a GIF that goes around on Twitter, but it was so much. There's the crime stuff that they did was solid, and it could have been enjoyable, but it was 12 issues. They had to stick it out to 12 issues, and of course she's a lesbian, right? Well, she's bisexual. You see her get railed by two people in the book, so that's great.
So this is a very
it was one of those things where, like, they had to hit all of your 2018 points in order to do the story, and the thing that's really frustrating, or maybe even in 2020 this came out, but the thing is like, a lot of the design was fun, a lot of the world building was fun. There was tediousness because it wasn't completely honest with the way the world was built, but the actual elements of the world building were cool. The way the buildings looked, the way that people interacted, the idea that you have three races that now live together on this artificial planet kind of thing. But the conceits of the story were so dishonest that it really took me out of the story entirely, in a way that, like, I don't know why I sat through 12 issues of this stuff, right? Like, if I'd have picked, because it was free, she get railed by fans or
Probably for the same
fish
reason
bats.
that
Both were fish bats. So
I was going to say, probably for the same reason that I have endured as much Star Wars as I have in a lifetime. Because when you were talking in the beginning about like the artwork being great, the world being great, everything being cool, but Gossett just fell through, I was like, I think you just explained my entire history.
that was exactly how I felt watching. That was exactly how I felt watching The Last Jedi, where I was just like, I just zoned out in the middle of that movie. I was just like, this isn't for me, Jack. And I went through and saw Solo, just hoping it wouldn't be terrible, and it was. But yeah, the only reason I watched the Rise of the Skywalker was because of a joke I heard in a live stream somebody said, and I had to follow the joke through, and it's great. It's the Rise of the Skywalker is the perfect sequel to Spaceballs. So that's take that for what it's worth. But yeah, the end of the story. The other thing is, like, her ring is supposed to be not the same as other people's ring, and they don't explain exactly why that is until like here, till this far through. So that was a little weird, but it's because there was a guardian who came to Earth and sought her out specifically for stuff. So that was
a little Mary Sue here.
Yeah, she does seem a little Mary Sue like, in that she does have struggles, and but one of the things she has trouble with doing is like flying. She's freaked out about flying, and I don't know how she got to this alien planet. The first couple issues is she avoids flying entirely, and then when she actually tries it, she's being really like she's afraid she's going to fall to her death, which once again the ring should keep you from doing that. The ring should know where you are. The ring sometimes has problems translating languages because there's been so much dialects shift in this giant series of planets. I mean, that would be interesting, except like the Green Lantern ring is supposed to take care of that already, right?
But they said that hers was different.
It's different, but I mean, like it's maybe different. It's got like, it doesn't have a lamp to recharge it. It recharges itself over time. You can use all your energy and then be stuck without having a ring without working for several days.
It almost sounds as if
like those things kind of would make sense, but like the fact that it doesn't have your basic functionality of like language, like life preservation.
It almost sounds as if
geolocation.
Someone wrote this without having any clue what the rings are supposed to do, and then someone else said, who knew it, was like, hold on, I just realized a million
after like
things
the third or
you
fourth
made a
issue,
mistake.
it seems like.
And the editor is like, okay, say that her ring is different from everybody else's somehow.
Right. And why this farthest sector away from Oa, right, doesn't have a local Green Lantern. That's the thing that I could not get over, why they wouldn't have a local Green Lantern. Unless they're trying to say, well, they could almost have gotten away with it if they'd have tried to explain that because they have this emotional block on them, then they can't operate the ring correctly, right? But you see people being angry, you see people being passionate, you see people being sad throughout the whole book. So the idea that these aliens aren't emotional is just like, it's nonsense. Like I said, the conceits are so dishonest and so inconsistent that that's an issue. It's like so it's one of those things where it doesn't really make sense to play that out. It's so it's not honest with way I mean, like a lot of the pieces, that could be really fun, and Jim says I guess the desire of the plant people to consume the unwilling and the dislike of fish bats to be eaten are the emotion. It would seem that is part of the thing. And because it actually specifically mentions that the plant people ask before they consume a sentient being, and they wouldn't do that when they were enthralled with their emotions before they had their emotions turned off. That before then, but I mean, like fear, like, you know. Anyway, it's a lot of the stuff. It's just one of those things that, like, it wouldn't necessarily have been terrible if an actual editor who actually loved Green Lantern and actually even read the stuff had been there from day one. So anyway, that's a lot. We've talked a lot about Far Sector. I'm going to take this back to the library and never read it again, and I feel really happy about that decision.
So that's 3 strikes tonight, right?
Well, Eben is one of those. I enjoyed it, but I won't. It's not enough of my thing where I want to continue reading it out. I'd rather read Jonah Hex than Eben if I had the choice. If you love the anthro art and you love pretty standard Western stories, I think you'd get a kick out of it. It's just not my thing. And once again, yeah. So it would be 3 strikes. One was, they're just, not my thing, but they're not terrible. There's some cheese in the Oracle files, or the Oracle code, but it wasn't terrible. If you want to read a comic book about hacking that's more realistic, I would recommend the Hacker Files from like '92. It was like a 9-issue series. It was real fun. And the guy who wrote it was also a steampunk writer and a coder. So like its stuff is a lot more fun. I really enjoyed the Hacker Files. I can't remember the author's name at the minute, but he was a cyberpunk author and an actual computer coder. Pardon my nose. I'm getting over a cold. All New Invaders number 2. This is the last one I want to talk about tonight. And I will tell you, this is stuff I'm going to seek out the rest of this, at least this story arc. So this is the winner, guys. Shouldn't be surprising, because check it out there, James Robinson, right? And this is a pre-New 52 James Robinson, I believe. Now, James Robinson wrote some detective comics. He wrote Starman, the 81 issue run, actually more than that if you count annuals or anything else, issue run of Starman from 94, I want to say, to 2001. And it's amazing. I absolutely love James Robinson's Starman, who is indirectly responsible for my love of Hawaiian shirts. Actually, I hadn't really given Hawaiian shirts much thought until they were talking about it in the pages of Starman, and then I started looking at different kinds of designs, and because I'd always seen the ones that just looked like a lei necklace, vomited all over a shirt, but there are Hawaiian shirts that have symmetry and design elements I really dig on, and so yeah, that's that. But I loved Starman. Story of an old school punk growing up out of time, reaching, getting over his Arrested Development and living up to heroic legacy. Absolutely loved that story. And just the love that Robinson had toward old comics and the history. I discovered, really dug into and discovered Starman at the same time I was looking at All-Star Squadron, and looking at a lot of those books. I just loved it. Loved Starman. And so to see James Robinson on All New Invaders, given a similar kind of treatment to the Marvel's Golden Age characters in the modern era. This Invaders team is made up of Steve Rogers, recently back from the dead. It's made up of Bucky, likewise. Oh, I gotta move it over here. Bucky, and the Human Torch. And Namor is not in this book. He was in a different issue apparently. And in this one, it is wall to wall action, and the story is that this is a Kree warrior what are they calling her? She's the same class of warrior as Ronan the Accuser. She's called Tanalth the Finder. Oh, I can't remember what it is. The Seeker. Anyway, it's one of those names like that. She's basically been sent to Earth to look for a device called the God Forge. No, that's not right. God's Whisper, and it's a machine, a Kree machine. I think it was Kree originally, that allows the Norse gods, the Asgardians, to be mind controlled. And apparently, in an out of continuity story or a retcon story, I should say, Baron Strucker had gotten a hold of this machine during World War II and had used it to bring Hel to Earth, Hel, the Norse goddess, and was racking up some deaths for the Third Reich. And then a group of the invaders, Bucky and Submariner and the Human Torch, Cap was off doing something else. They came together and were able to defeat Strucker and turn off the machine and send Hel away back to Asgard. And then they destroyed the machine, and they couldn't break it all together, but they were able to dismantle it, I guess. And each of the three guys buried it somewhere, and then had the Golden Age Vision, who also is a space cop. So there's a theme on the night. Wipe their memories, and so they're having to. So this Kree gal discovered what happened to the machine, and so she's hunted those three down to try to find out where all the pieces were left. And so it ends. So it starts with Bucky on the run, and it ends with after Cap and Bucky and the Human Torch have remembered all the stuff they remembered because they had their minds woken back up again. Because apparently the Golden Age Vision didn't actually erase their minds; he just masked them. Anyway, they're going to take a Quinjet into space now that they've had their exposition out of the way. So this is like the second. Like I said, this is the second issue. Oh, hey, there's the Golden Age Vision. In case you didn't know what he looks like. Yeah. Who I believe is in the public domain now. I might be wrong about that though. Anyway, point being, that this really wet my whistle. I am curious to see how it started. It was a great bridging chapter. I always have loved these characters, whether under the pen of Roy Thomas, and I predominantly like James Robinson's take on the characters. I'm a little annoyed with Robinson still for what he got paid to do to Alan Scott. But that's an issue. In case you don't know, cartoon, because Alan Scott was the Golden Age Green Lantern, who previously had a couple of kids. His wife disappeared on him because she was actually secretly a supervillain who had multiple personalities.
There was someone before Hal Jordan.
Oh yes. Alan Scott was the Golden Age Green Lantern. Red shirt, green lantern logo. He had a lantern that's powered by magic.
That's right.
Wasn't part of the Green Lantern.
I forgot about that.
Yep. And so he meets his children in the pages of Infinity Incorporated, I believe, and they're adults, and he tries to make up for lost time. And after the crisis, that's a whole thing. And so he's Alan Scott had kind of bad luck in love. He's married twice, and his first wife was the Golden Age Thorn, and she gets pregnant when she's in her Rose. I believe she was called Rose, because there's a Silver Age character, Rose and Thorn, that are slightly different. But the Golden Age Rose and Thorn, multiple personality kind of thing still, and I believe it's Rose is the safe identity and Thorn is the dangerous identity. Oh, here you go. Jim Tuner says, red shirt, powered by magic, weakness is wood. Very true. So, anyway, so he marries this gal. He doesn't know that it's the villainous Thorn. And then he, but her evil identity starts to come out. And so she leaves so she doesn't kill the dude in the sleep when she finds out that it's Green Lantern, because she didn't know it was Green Lantern, a secret identity thing. She figures it out after they're hitched. But she's with child. So she has 2 children and gives them both up to adoption because she's schizo and dangerous. Well, his wife disappears. She ends up being declared legally dead. Doesn't know whatever happens to her, and he ends up marrying another gal. I can't remember her name, but turns out that she was the arch villainous Harlequin who's just retired. Very bat and cat sort of thing, but they're both retired from heroing mostly. And the Harlequin was just a villain for kicks. So she got a little old for the game, ends up, but they never have kids. So you see Alan Scott as this old married dude who's connecting with his estranged children. And that's like his whole arc for like all of the 90s, right? 90s, the 2000s up until the New 52. With the New 52, they launch a new Earth 2 that has a few Golden Age characters have different origins. And one of those is that version of Alan Scott is gay. It was written by James Robinson. People said it was handled really well, and it's not the real Alan Scott. So everybody calm down. It's not like the whole Iceman thing where they changed all of history. No, it's just this version of Alan Scott. Well, that version of Alan Scott is now the only version of Alan Scott, according to current canon, and that happened. Somebody trying to think outside of the box with it. They totally eliminated 30 years of character development out of it. So
what would superhero comics be without reboots? I mean,
I don't know. I don't mind some reboots as long as they're done well.
Retcons.
Like retcons. Like for a long time, superheroes didn't have retcons. That was a whole thing.
Exactly. They retconned the fact that they didn't have retcons.
That's what happened. If you're going to engage in villainy, it should be for the sport. Interesting. Another one of Alan Scott's foes was the original Sportsman. Who was a sports? I think it was called Sportsman, and he was a sports themed, like, of rugby, basketball, hunting, like shooting, themed villain called the Sportsman. I believe that was an Alan Scott.
I know somebody like that, but I thought it was the Sportsmaster.
Maybe it is called Sportsmaster. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. It's possible. I do occasionally get things wrong. Anyway, All New Invaders #2. Get out there. If you dig Golden Age heroes and you like action stories and you don't mind a little bit of crazy space nonsense, highly recommend. I really enjoyed this book. The other ones, take the taste. Although, if you value your sanity, if you're gonna you can pick this up from the library to flip through the pretty pictures, because the art. Jamal Campbell, he brings it on almost every page. Her character, it's supposed to take place over 6 months of time. It's 12 issues supposed to happen over 6 months of time. So it does appear that Sojourner gains and loses weight during the course of the book. But maybe that was intentional. And not, very seldom does she look like super fat, but it looks like she may have gained and lost 20 pounds or something through the course of the book. So maybe that was intentional, but other than that, I love the building designs. I love even her costume design. Her hair is a little crazy in moments, but sometimes not terrible. It is Sportsmaster. Jim Tuner has corrected me. It is Sportsmaster. There you have it.
You're thinking about the same person?
Yep. There you go. So, anyway, I think that's a show, honestly. I don't have anything else to say. I don't have anything else to go on about. We've been going an hour and a half. and I'd just be filling time otherwise. So, I my backup plan had not spent quite so much time on the books. If I'd gone too fast through it, my backup plan was to put up my art pages and just work on those while people, if you wanted to just check it out or ask me questions or whatever. But I think I've been at it long enough, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it a show today. I'm expecting next week things be back to normal. Hit it up with Scott Pilgrim Volume 4. Scott Pilgrim gets it together, plus extra bonus material we'll go over too. So, which we probably should have done last time. I have to agree. I think that fits
There were
better.
like 100 pages worth of bonus material in that.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it would have fit better at the end of Volume 3 than at the beginning of Volume 4. But what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I don't know. Just check it out. So, well, that is going to be it for the day. This was fun. Thank you guys for coming along. I know it wasn't hugely populated today. It's very low-key stuff. But I did enjoy this.
Well, it takes a very refined palate to appreciate that first half hour.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that part was terrible. That part was terrible. I really thought, yeah. So those people, after we're done with the stream, I'm gonna go through and cut that out of the replay once it's done doing its thing. So the people that tune in to watch the tomorrow, they won't get it. We didn't go deep enough into the Underdog universe. Jim Tuner, I'm going to take that as a request to review some Underdog comics. I'm going to find some of those out. We'll make a show about Underdog comics sometime in November, December. So after the pilgrimage, I'm going to say that my next 2 shows, I am planning on doing an Ideal Comics stream talking about some of our deep lore. And I'm going to see if I can't con Matt Crotson to come on because he was asking some specific questions. Hopefully I wasn't the only one here for that beginning part.
You might be the only one here, period, tonight.
Yeah, it could be. No, Jim's here and Evie was here earlier too.
Who said that? I wasn't.
Yeah, Abigail.
I thought that was Jim who said that.
No, that was Metal said that.
No, I wasn't counting Metal because he has no excuse not to show up.
Yeah, he's working on a project, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely take this as a request for us to do some more Underdog comics. But anyway, I was saying, so the first week after they finish the pilgrimage, we are going to be talking about some of the deep lore of the Ideal Comics universe. And Matt Krotz kind of requested it, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I'll probably do some surveys on Twitter to find out what kind of stuff people are interested in hearing about, rather than me just ramble on about stuff that I think is interesting.
That's what you're paid to do.
Sometimes I am. Sometimes it's horrible to listen to, and I like having guests on the show, so it's not just my voice and my randomness. I like being able to bounce off of other people's ideas and thoughts, and that way I can gauge what somebody might need to have. So don't take things as read so much, because when I just riff by myself, I know what I know. I don't necessarily have a good beat on what other people know. Does that make sense? So anyhow, then after that, I'm hoping to do a Comics Creators Club. I still need to reach out to the people I want to get in on it. I'll probably do that this evening, honestly. I think I may have said that last week, but I really, really mean it this time. So I'm hoping to have that all figured out next week. That will mean, because other people's time is important, that we'll probably this week we weren't able to do Scott Pilgrim for some people on our panel couldn't make it, and I think we'll have to do no excuses and just run with it from here on out. So we make sure that we have the following weeks keyed up in time and go from that. I think this is what we're going to have to do. So yeah. But that's it for the show tonight. I'm going to close it the way I started, with that hilarious bit inspired by Dragon Hoops, number one Marmaduke fan, and go. I need to give that guy's a channel. Check out here soon. But we'll go ahead and we're going to leave with that. And until next time, get out there and read some comics. Listen, your local shop, if you have a local shop or you have a library, I'm sure they've got some gems that nobody's checked out in a while. Quarter bin it, man. Don't be too proud. Get yourself a battered, beaten beauty and enjoy. Until next time, we'll catch you here on the Mattriarchy.
Significantly fewer people watch women's basketball. There are plenty of theories why. Women don't score as much. They don't run as fast. They don't dunk. Women's sports, in general, are not worth watching.
The police often question him just because they find him interesting. His beard alone has experienced more than a lesser man's entire body. His blood smells like cologne. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis.
Oh,